The song My Way was the signature anthem of jazz icon Frank Sinatra. Only the chairman of the board, as Sinatra was nicknamed, could deliver the following self-assured lyrics without irony and mean it. What is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has naught. To say the things he truly feels and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blows and did it my way. Honestly, much of my life can be characterized by the phrase, I did it my way. But the Bible cautions me not to be so eager to roll down that self-centered road, but instead to ask myself, as Paul did to the church in Galatians 3:3, are you now trying to attain your goal by human effort? In this episode of the 5-Minute Ministry, we're going to look at the second of the 5 solas of the Reformation, Solus Christus, Christ alone, which addresses the idea of trying to live the Christian life my way. I remember approaching my baptism with lots of tears, because my way was getting me nowhere fast. Yet I was petrified that I could never achieve a level of holiness that could be described as God's way. And then I read the book of Hebrews. This New Testament book confirmed that I couldn't perform my way to be right with God, but joyfully it also taught that Solus Christus, Christ alone, had already done on my behalf what I could never do to satisfy God's holiness. According to Hebrews 10:1, no amount of penance, self-denial, or charity could make perfect anyone who tries. If that were the end of the story, then I would have been in a pit of despair. The way I lived was outside what the Bible called for in terms of right living, and I knew that I couldn't live up to the biblical standard of godliness of my own accord. If I couldn't be right with God by trying to perform the deeds that look like a religious life, then what hope would there be for me? Happily, there was more to Hebrews 10. In verses 4 through 7, Scripture tells us this, for it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. Consequently, when Christ came into the world, he said, sacrifices and offerings you have not desired, but a body have you prepared for me. In burnt offerings and sin offerings you have taken no pleasure. And I said, behold, I have come to do your will, O God, as it is written of me in the scroll of the book. This passage reminds us that the Israelites had religious laws that required them to shed the blood of animals year after year as symbols of atonement for their sins. And yet the writer of Hebrews confirms that this ancient practice was never able to remove the barrier of sin between a perfect deity and a corrupt humanity. In a modern way of putting it, there is simply nothing, no ritual, no rite, no mitzvah, no religious practice that can completely put me or anyone else in a right relationship with God. God has to do something for us in order to remove that obstruction. Scripture continues in verses 8 through 10. When he said above, you have neither desired nor taken pleasure in sacrifices and offerings and burnt offerings and sin offerings. These are offered according to the law. Then he added, behold, I have come to do your will. He does away with the first in order to establish the second. And by that will, we have been sanctified through the offering of the body of Jesus Christ once for all. There was the key. I can never live a righteous life my way. As long as I'm in the material world, I will sin. Essentially, even many years into the faith, I will have times when I will choose to do things my way and will need God to restore me. There is nothing in the catalog of good deeds and no measurable amount of religiosity that I can do on my own to create and preserve my salvation. It is the work of Christ on the cross that satisfies God on my behalf and helps me throughout my spiritual walk to let go of my way when it disrupts my relationship with God. Jesus, the God-man who had no sin, sacrificed himself as the perfect and final offering for sin. Solus Christus, Christ alone, removes the barrier of sin so that each of us can have the opportunity to commune with God without having to concern ourselves with the meticulous details of over 600 rules that govern the Israelites from the Mosaic Law. In the crucifixion, Jesus Christ paid the penalty for all I have done wrong in the past, and in fact, all I will ever do wrong in the future. Viewed through a healthy theological lens, the incredible sacrifice of Christ actually relieves the soul of worry, shame, and performance anxiety, and it encourages the heart to do good works from a place of gratitude and humility. We might be entertained by the swagger of a song like My Way, but when it comes to living in the light of God, let's instead rely on Solus Christus, Christ alone, to help us live His way.